Alright, some of you have posted on our YouTube channel that you're kind of frustrated with microplanes that only come with brush motor and gearbox or dual brush motors with direct drive props. You prefer brushless. So I set out to find at least 3 factory micro brushless planes that would be good options for those that are looking for that type of aircraft, and that includes me. So all of the aircraft that I'm about to show you had specific requirements that I set out. Number 1, they had to be micro aircraft. Number 2, they had to be durable. Number 2, they had to be at least a good flying aircraft, if not an exceptional flying aircraft. They had to have a brushless power system, and they had to be sub 250 grams, so you wouldn't have the FAA restrictions here in the United States. So the first one I'm going to show you is the Park Jet. This is the XK-A180 F-22 Raptor micro brushless Park Jet. It is aileron control only, aileron and elevator mix. This is the only one that I'm going to show you that I would recommend as a first plane, because the gyro in safe mode is fairly restricted. One of the criteria that I didn't set out was that you could fly it on a hobby grade transmitter, an OpenTX transmitter. All the ones I'm going to show you can be flown with an OpenTX transmitter. So going forward, that's going to be another one of my requirements for these microplanes. This one is made out of EPP foam. It's very lightweight. It's way under 250 grams. I did have to make some linkage adjustments to it to get it to handle the way I wanted it to handle on the stock transmitter, as well as my OpenTX transmitter, my RadioMaster TX16S. Once I got the linkage adjusted on it, I could fly it fairly smoothly on the toy grade transmitter that it comes with, as well as the hobby grade transmitter. It has enough power that you could do some pretty wide loops with it. It has very poor roll authority in the roll axis, so it's going to be relegated to barrel rolls. That's the weak spot on this plane, is you don't have much in the way of roll authority. As far as pitch and power for doing loops, doing split S maneuvers, you can do that just fine with this plane. But not enough to do axial rolls without a lot of altitude. So that's the weak spot on this. Other than that, it flies very well. It's not an exceptional flying aircraft, but it's the best flying factory micro Park Jet that I have flown so far, and I've flown a few of them. Not brushless, but brush motors that are about similar in size to this. This one is the best flying one of the ones that I have set up and tested. So, and the landing gear keeps it up off the ground enough. If you have a nice, hard, smooth surface, you'll also be able to take off from the ground with this plane. I have to hand launch it, but. And for all these aircraft on our Facebook page, I have provided setup files for my setup, the way I have it set up, as well as my OpenTX model file that you can import and use in your OpenTX transmitter if you want to do that. All that information has already been posted on our Facebook page for every one of the planes I'm about to show you. Okay, so the next aircraft. Alright, so the next plane I have is my own design. It's our Glue and Fly Series F-22 Micro. It's made out of a single sheet of Adams Ready board. It weighs 149 grams all up weight with a 3S 550 milliamp hour ADC LiPo that I use in it. It also has unlimited vertical climb. I have yet to find a factory Park Jet that will be able to compete with this micro F-22. And if you watch any of the flight videos of this aircraft, and I will also have links to all the aircraft that I'm discussing in this video, as well as the playlist in the show notes. So if you've never watched this fly, take a look at it. You'll know that I'm not exaggerating when I say that I have yet to find a factory part jet that can compete with this. It's made out of, or built with budget components. It's very inexpensive. I think when I first built it, I have over 300 flights on it now. When I first built it, it had a plug and fly build cost of around $37, just to show you how much things have increased in price since I first built this. The plug and fly cost on it right now is about $65 with the components that I use in it. So that's plug and fly build, not counting the receiver, not counting the LiPo, but with all the other electronics. There's only 11 parts to the total build. It's about as easy a DIY build as you'll come across, and it's an extremely versatile, powerful, has a wide flight envelope, flies fast, it flies slow. You can do any aerobatics you want with it. You know, limited to elevon control. It only has 2 servos, just elevon control. Okay, so links to the setup file, the OpenTX model file, the plans and documents for this. It comes with full-size plans as well as tiled plans, so you can print them out on a standard printer and assemble them and cut out your parts. Very inexpensive for the type of performance that you get. Okay, and it is well below 250 grams. I think it's at 149 grams all up weight. You can also fly this on a 2S LiPo where it's much more docile. I use a 2S 550 milliamp hour ADC LiPo in it, and it has a 1.25 to 1 thrust to weight ratio with a 2S LiPo in it. So I think it would make a good training part jet on the 2S and a high performance part jet on the 3S. Okay, so next aircraft. All right, the next plane that I tested is the Aero's Pioneer bush plane. I don't know if I mentioned the XK-A180 F-22 comes as a ready to fly. This one comes as a ready to fly. It has the best ready to fly included transmitter that I have used so far. I mean, it's a pretty high quality transmitter as far as a ready to fly plane comes. And you can fly this extremely smoothly on the ready to fly transmitter, and of course you can also fly it with an OpenTX transmitter. All right, so the XK-A180 uses a 2S LiPo. This one also uses a 2S LiPo. The all up weight on this is, I think, 113 grams all up weight. This is an exceptional flying bush plane. The only weak point of this plane is that they chose to put the ailerons pretty far inbound on the wings, and so the roll rate is like the XK-A180. It's a very lethargic in the rolls. So this one has plenty of power. You could hover this plane if you have some 3D skill. But you can pull extremely large loops with this, do split S maneuvers. If you've got some skill, you can also do knife edges with it. It has a very tight turning radius, even with the included transmitter in safe mode. So someone asked me if I would recommend this as a first plane. The only way I could really recommend this as a first plane, because in safe mode it's not very restrictive and it does have a lot of power. I would say that if you have an OpenTX transmitter that you could program for someone to where you could make it more restrictive on the dual rates so that it doesn't bank as hard, and so the rudder can't spin it around as much, and so it can't climb as much of an angle. If you could do that, then I would say it would make an excellent first plane. But with the included gyro, even in safe mode, I would say it's not restrictive enough for a very first plane. If you don't have a hobby grade transmitter, OpenTX transmitter that you could set up and program it that way, I would say it would make a good second plane, not a first plane. But just an exceptional flying plane. I will be modifying the ailerons. I don't know if I'm going to just extend the ailerons or if I'm going to move the ailerons. I'm thinking more along the lines of actually extending the ailerons to give me the amount of roll authority that I want. But other than that, and you know, if I extend them, that's not going to be a time-consuming thing that I'm going to have to do. It's just unfortunate that they didn't put the ailerons on the outer portion of the wing so that you had really good roll authority with it. That's its only weak point. But other than that, I've got no complaints about this plane. And if you're not wanting to perform aerobatics like that, then you're going to be completely happy with this plane. And I think looking at the quality of the transmitter that it comes with, I think that at the price that they're selling this at, it's an extremely good deal. Okay, so yeah, even though I've got a hobby grade transmitter that I'm flying it with now, I still think for what you get, it's a very good price, even if you're not going to use the included transmitter with it. I wish they would include a bind and fly version. That would be my preference, but I don't know if they're going to do that. But another exceptional flying brushless sub 250 gram plane. So next up. Okay, I saved the best of the factory planes for last. And that is the Eachine Flying Fish W650 brushless, dual brushless motor, micro sub 250 gram plane. The only complaint that I have about this plane, and most of you will not have this complaint, where I have to land, I need landing skids or I need a landing gear. I would have hoped or wished that this would have come with an optional landing gear, but it doesn't. So I had to fabricate a landing gear for it. But other than that, that's my only minor complaint. This plane either has unlimited vertical climb or very close to unlimited vertical climb. I have not allowed this plane to climb as high vertically as it's capable of because it gets so small that I start losing orientation on it. I pull back on the throttle, roll it over, and pull it through in a split S maneuver. But I have not topped out this plane yet. So if it does not have unlimited vertical, it is very close to unlimited vertical. And this flies on a 3S, and it does not come as a ready to fly, it comes as a plug and fly. It's a full 4-channel plane. Aileron, elevator, rudder, throttle, 2 brushless motors. It is absolutely awesome. This plane does not look like a bush plane, but it flies like a twin motor bush plane. It has a very wide flight envelope. It's marketed as a low to mid speed dual motor glider, but it flies like a dual motor bush plane. It's absolutely fantastic. I have excellent authority in the roll, the pitch, and the yaw axis. You can do any type of aerobatic with this plane that you are capable of doing, whether it's loops or rolls or stall turns or split S maneuvers or inverted flight or knife edges or Himmelmans or whatever you want to do. This plane is going to be capable of doing it. And they chose a really good balance between power and efficiency. So on my 3S 800 milliamp hour and 950 milliamp hour lipos that I use in this plane, the way I fly it, and I'm not easy in the throttle, I'm going to get 7 to 8 minutes of flight time out of it. If you're just cruising around with it, you're going to get significantly more time out of it. Now, even with the landing gear, I added 17 grams of weight to this plane over its stock configuration. 238 grams all up weight is what mine is with 17 grams of landing gear added. And I still haven't topped out the motor. When I was doing those vertical climbs with it, that's with the 17 grams of weight of the landing gear attached to it. It does not have differential thrust, but the board has pads on the front. If you want to move the signal wires for the motors from the connector and solder those onto the pads, then you can program it with differential thrust. In my opinion, it does not need differential thrust. I can go out and fly it and just fly it bank and yank and it makes nice coordinated turns without even using the rudder. So in my opinion, it does not need differential thrust on it. There's not a single modification that I had to make to this plane except for adding the landing gear and adjusting the linkage on the rudder to get a little more movement on the rudder. And other than that, everything that I needed I took care of with dual rate and expo, just to get it to handle the way I like it. It has nice axial, quick rolls with it. It's got enough power, you can do tremendously large loops with it, split S maneuvers, vertical climb that is absolutely fantastic, to do things like stall turns with it. I have absolutely no complaints about this plane. And it's not very many factory planes that I have flown where I didn't have to make some kind of modification to it, either moving the control surface out further out on the wing, doing something, you know, changing the motor, changing the prop. This one I didn't have to do a thing except make a linkage adjustment, and that is it, and it is ready to go. And it flies exceptionally well. I just have a blast with this plane. The last time I looked at the US warehouse, they were selling this for $105.99. That is a steal in my opinion. This is the most highly recommended brushless micro sub 250 gram plane that I can provide you with so far. Alright, so where do I go from here? Well, in addition, one of the things I wanted to mention about this, standard brushless motors with standard T-mount props. No proprietary props, no proprietary method of mounting the props. That is going to be one of my criteria going forward. The other thing that I discovered with these microplanes with traditional wings is that a minimum of 24-inch wingspan seems to be the sweet spot for these microplanes, to where they handle like a much larger plane. So 2 additional criteria that I'm going to be adding for reviewing these brushless microplanes in the future is you'll be able to use standard props, no proprietary props, no proprietary method of mounting the props, and a minimum of a 24-inch wingspan. So I'm hoping that I come across a couple more candidates yet this year. I would like to offer you a couple more options on these type of planes, where you can, you know, they're sub 250 gram, you can fly them just about anywhere. They maneuver well enough that you can fly them in a tight spot. You can put a gyro in it if you want to, if it doesn't come with one. I've got the radio link, buy a gyro in it, works fantastic. So no complaints whatsoever. So those are the options that I have available for you so far. 2 of the factory planes are exceptional flying planes. This one is the best of the factory planes that I've flown so far. One of them is a good flying plane, the Park Jet, the XK-A180. So it's worth the price that they're asking for. I have a lot of fun flying it, but it flies like a microplane. The Arrows, RC, Pioneer, this plane, and the GFS DIY F22 micro, all 3 of those micros fly like a much larger plane. So anyway, those are the options that I have available for you. I think those are the best of the best of the best of the ones that I've had an opportunity to fly so far. I will keep my eye out for a couple more. Hopefully by the end of the year I'll be able to add 2 more to this list. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.